Hey everybody, Jeremy here. And guys, I'm very excited for the conversation we're going to have today. We have Mark Murphy with us today. He is the CEO of Northeast Private Client Group. He's an accomplished author, speaker, motivator, and he's revolutionizing financial planning and the wealth management industry. Mark, thank you so much for hanging out with me today, sir.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. Happy to be here.
So I want to find out first and foremost, what drove you to get into this career and what drove you to help the people you want to help, man?
You know, one of the things that I became aware of it from one of my dear friends and partners, Bernie Stoltz, shared with me the concept of ikigai. You know, it's a Japanese term where it talks about, they ask 4 questions. They ask, are you passionate about something? Are you good at it? Is the second question. The third question is, does the world need that product or service? And then the fourth is, can you get paid to do it? And so when I found this career about 38 years ago, I found my ikigai because I could answer it not a yes, but a hell yeah to all 4 of those questions. That's the real answer. The other answer would be, you know, I was 22 years old, and when they offered me $1,000 a month to as a draw to come to the firm that I now run, it was great because it was $1,000 more than I was making. You know, I was just and I had a ton of student debt. So that's both the honest truths.
So let me ask you this, you know, I guess looking at modern day, like what drives you, you know, in the work you do? And I guess, how do you differentiate yourself from other financial firms in the industry?
I don't believe in competition. I believe in differentiation. So one of the things that I do, Jeremy, is I wake up every day, and I not only do it because I do it for our firm every day, so I do it for every one of our clients. And I'll sit down and if you're a widget company, let's say that I'm representing, or a financial services company like ours, I wake up every day thinking, okay, there are 4 widget companies lined up, one after the other, after the other, after the other. Why are the best clients, customers, or patients going to pick my firm? And why are the best employees and partners going to want to work for my firm rather than the other 3? And so we just work on differentiation of how you can change, you know, what you do every single day. And you know, I think it's all comes around mindset, because ultimately it's the only thing you control is your state. You can control the state that you show up every day, meaning as soon as I'm done with this podcast with you, I'm going to step outside my office and there may be no problems. There may be 10 problems I have to deal with, but the problems or whatever the challenges are going to be there. It's really how I deal with it. So I'll give you some ways that we sort of think. One is, I am not Pollyannish. I do not look through things through rose-colored glasses. You know, if a problem, you know, exists, if you don't deal with it, it just keeps coming back. So you have to deal with a real problem.
Right.
But having said that, my mind instantaneously, when something bad happens, I always go back to, well, what's great about that? So if my kid's girlfriend breaks up with them, I'll say, you know, you can mourn the relationship for a day or so, but what's great about that is now she wasn't the right person for you. So now you have all the time to go find somebody who's the right person to be with, or to spend time with other things that you want to do. I sort of look at every problem where most people kind of get beaten down by problems. Like, oh, I had a terrible day. You know, I need a drink. I need a nap. I need a whatever. And I always come back and think every problem is an opportunity. And so as we're looking, as an example, going into a potential recession, we're spending a lot of times with our clients, as an example, finding out and trying to not react, but to anticipate what might happen in a recessionary environment and where great fortunes are going to be created during this recession for the people that are thinking that way.
That's really, really important, because especially when you're thinking about, you know, what to do with your money, where to put it, and especially like if it's something that you're in long term as well, like you really don't want to make a snap decision on something like that, because you can either lose a lot or you could miss out what you're gaining on. So at the same time, you have to kind of, I guess, slow down a little bit. Am I right?
It's a science. There is a science to this work, but I think that ultimately money is never math. It's always psychological. And so if you don't get people's head correct about the value around money, no matter how much money they make, they'll always be behind the 8 ball. You know, one of the things that I used to think that I was doing a great job, and I actually hurt people early in my career, is I would go to some business owner and I would help them double, triple, quadruple their income. And I'd go, wow, how could they not love me? I've doubled their business. I've quadrupled their income. But if they didn't have the right mindsets or thought process around money, I didn't double their problems. I like quintupled them because they just had more money to make bad decisions with around money. And you know what the crazy thing is, and this is actuarially provable, is that the smarter you are, the more likely you are to make bad decisions around money. You know, that's why you hear doctors and lawyers notoriously are the worst with money.
Yeah.
You feel other people are just, you find people that are so smart that just don't have good values around money. And it's not just them, it's anybody that's smart.
So let me ask you this then. I'm taking a couple notes here so I don't have to go back to this. I guess like looking at that then, like how do people get the right money mindset then? Like how do you look at money the right way? Because I think that's really interesting, right? Like I know for a lot of people, maybe, they've made a lot of money in present time, but in the past, like, they come from a background of where their parents had to claw and scrape and do whatever. So how they look at money is very different. How do you change your mindset on money?
First thing you have to do is you have to realize that there's only three things you can do with your money. It may seem very simple, but you can save it, you can pay your bills, or you can spend it. But here's the secret. If you do it in any other order, there's never any money to save. If you don't pay yourself first, and I think that's an immutable fact for people that are starting. Mm-hmm. And then I think that what the first level of that really is that you have to have cash confidence. You have to create cash confidence in your life, that the first step is to make sure that when there's opportunities out there or emergencies, that you've got the cash, you're anticipating these things that only happen to other people except when they happen to you. And so it's both opportunities or emergencies. So it starts with cash confidence.
You mentioned intelligence. I'm actually really interested to talk about that. And I guess, how do we get in our own way, I guess, by being too smart when it comes to money?
Because people are making emotional decisions. I think one of the number one jobs of a great financial advisor is to make people not make impulsive decisions, and also to put together things that work together, where 1 + 1, where there's turbocharging or synergy. I think most times people think 1 + 1 = 2, but for most people it's 1 + 1 = 1.5. I'd like 1 + 1 = 3 or 4.
Right.
And I think you keep moving on up the pyramid scale, so you get cash confidence first. Then the second thing you need to do is, what we want to do is, if you've got a business or you've got a job, the next thing we want to do is feed your money machine. So if you have only $1 to invest, the best investments entrepreneurial people make. And if you own a business, you put it in your business or your money machine. But even if you don't own your own business and you're an entrepreneurial thinker, you can still invest in yourself. Do you have the right education to get that job? Do you have the right skills or technical expertise? Do you need some leadership training? Do you need to build your network? I mean, there's everybody. One of the things you want to think things out is, I work with a lot of retired Fortune 500 CEOs. I actually work with a lot of celebrities and athletes. We work with. I'm an NFL registered player financial advisor, and so ultimately, these people have had this great success on the gridiron for many years, through high school, through college, through the NFL, and then they've got to figure out what they want to do.
That's so interesting too, because you look at how many of them are actually like struggling after retirement or after they're playing. Like, I don't know if you remember Trent Richardson. He was a number 1 overall pick running back for Cleveland a bunch of years ago. He ended up not really turning out, but he made this mistake early on in his career of giving everybody in his family a debit card. So he had no money left 3 years into his career. But continue. I think that's really important.
By the way, just kind of a side note, but 81% of all financial or professional athletes are either bankrupt or in severe financial distress within 2 years of retirement. I only work with the 19%. Meaning, I just won't participate and watch somebody continue to, it's like working with somebody who's an alcoholic and just feeding them, quarts of scotch, every day, or 6 packs of beer. It makes no sense. So you feed your money machine, which is either you, if you don't own a business, or it's your business, to grow the asset value of the business and grow the cash flow. But then what we also do, the next level of step up, is you want to have, there's only 2 asset classes. As somebody who manages billions of dollars, there's dozens and dozens of asset classes. But for our purposes of this podcast, there's only 2. And we call them either paychecks, or either free capital or play checks. Mm-hmm. And so we want our clients to create a series of assets that will give them either a guaranteed or a highly reliable stream of income to replace their income at their business. I'll call those paychecks. But then we want to have another series of assets where you can spend it, you can save it, you can give it away. But the important thing is, it will not be responsible for producing income for their family. So if you have both paychecks and playchecks, that's financial freedom. But there's one more level. If you can have earned income beyond normal retirement, where you have tax advantages and you're making money when most of your friends are going to early bird specials, or worried about living too long, or drinking domestic beer instead of imported beer, or whatever their fancy is, you're actually a net saver in your 60s and 70s and 80s because you have earned income from one of your operating companies. Mm-hmm. I've said this for many years, that money markets, CDs, IRAs, 401ks, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, blah, blah, blah. Most of our clients will have some or all those assets. Most of our clients will have some or all those assets all their life. But at best, they're inflation-adjusted holding tanks. True wealth is created in one of three areas. It's investing in your business or some other operating company, your money machine. It's investing in real estate. It's financing deals. That's the private equity side of the transaction, investing in other companies. I leave out divorce and inheritance. I always say if Bill Gates was on the call with us today, Jeremy, he wouldn't say I'm worth $110 billion because of my 401k or my mutual funds.
Right. As the economy changes and things like that, like what things should people be looking at more, right? Because I'm sure values and things changes, risks and things changes, and you're talking about investing in yourself. What things should we be investing in to make ourselves more stable?
Well, first, we've mentioned cash confidence. The second thing for business owners, you're going to see, and for other folks, the people that have that cash confidence or have secure incomes, great fortunes are made not during boom times, but during times of stress. Mm-hmm. So as an example, if you've got great cash and real estate were to drop precipitously, would it be not said that you could buy that real estate at a much lower price than it is today?
Or absolutely. Just look at what's happened with commercial real estate right now. Like commercial real estate market's busted.
I think that's only starting. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people think that's starting. The other thing, if you own a business, you may during good times, a competitor may be feeling great about their business. They've got a lot of debt, or they don't run as good a business as you run. So what the great opportunity is during bad times is when they run into trouble, you may be able to acquire that business and buy that business and buy that talent and merge it into your company. And you'll be buying it at a distressed price and a great discount. Might be the single biggest transaction you make, buying a company that's worth a lot more than it is during distressed times. And so what I think is that your mindset always has to go to what we said. Every problem, a recession or bad times or those sorts of things, it's a problem. I'm not saying it's not.
Yeah.
But you have to go, what's the opportunity there? What is the great opportunity? Everything is an opportunity to create more abundance and more wealth in the world.
So let me ask you this then, because I think one of the most important things about that, Mark, is actually staying clear-headed on it, right? Because I think when you look at it, if you look at those things, without kind of the world going nuts and everything around you, you can make the right decision. But I think for a lot of us, we have family stress, we have soccer practice, we have the world, doing whatever it's doing. So I guess, how do you stay level-headed then looking at these things so you're actually making the right decision about the data in front of you?
Jeremy, I try to keep it as simple as possible. I always think in your life, whether it's your personal budget or your company, you have expenses and you have investments. Expenses are always on the chopping block because with an expense, maybe it shouldn't be there. I almost have an unlimited appetite for investment as long as I can get at least a 4 or 5 to 1 return on my money or more. And that's what we look for in terms of investing in your business or some other operating company or looking for those types of things. And so I kind of analyze those opportunities.
So let me ask you this then. When we're looking at the concept of investing in yourself, where do you think most people get applying that wrong? Like, where do you think people mess up in terms of applying that?
I think that oftentimes, and I don't mean to be conspiratorial, but a lot of the products that are out there are designed to benefit the financial institution. I think that ultimately, and you have to use financial institution. I'm not saying the people are bad. I'm not saying the products are bad. I'm not saying the companies are bad. I think everybody's good and everybody's entitled to that work. But if you find most of the financial institutions in the product, they work on 4 rules. So if you wanted to leave your company, which I know you don't, and you wanted to be the
I'm very happy to be here. Don't tell anybody that.
So if you wanted to be the CEO of the biggest financial institution in the world,
right,
you'd have to know 4 rules. Is we want your money, we want it on a regular basis, we want to keep it as long as possible, and we want to give you as little as possible in return. Mm. And so the idea is that they're velocitizing the money for them. And I think people need to learn some rules about how they can create wealth for themselves. I think, as an example, one of the things I hear all the time is, I've got to get out of debt. I've got to get out of debt. And I agree in principle, but I think you have to look deeper. It's not just debt, meaning there's good debt and there's bad debt. And so I have people, prepaying mortgages that are at 2.5% tax deductible. That if they're in a 50% tax bracket in a state like New York or New Jersey or California, that's like saying, how excited would you be about an investment that earned 1.25% for the next 30 years? And you say, that would be terrible. So why would you want to pay that down as opposed to saying maybe a credit card that might be at 19% or 20% non-deductible? you want to stop paying Visa and MasterCard so much, but other debt is very strategic, for tax purposes and other things. And so I think, so they lose money by sort of having a good concept about not being in debt, but taking it to an extreme where it actually hurts them. Mm-hmm. Or they look at, they don't look at the tax effects of things. Like as an example, in their qualified plans, you maybe have saved your whole life to have $1 million or $2 million in your 401k. But if you're in a high tax state, 50% of that money is owned by the government when you pull it out, right, whether it be during the course of your lifetime or death. So it's $1 million account if you look at it, but it's only really $500,000. And I realize that you say, well, I'm not going to pull the whole million out right away, so I'm going to defer the tax. But as you defer the tax, you also compound the tax. So as it grows, you still got a partner in the government at 50%. So have you developed strategies to get the money out on a tax efficient or tax advantage way? Have you taken asymmetric risk? I think the other fear is that people have what I call FOMO, that people are always chasing the last war, mm-hmm, meaning that when the market is rising like crazy, they always we want to buy low and sell high. They want to buy high and sell low. Or people say, hey, I've got some rental income property. I've got 2 rental properties. Isn't that great? So why don't I lever up everything and have 15 properties? And then a recession hits and they can't collect the rents and they lose all 15 properties. Mm-hmm. So I think it's more just putting together a strategy, making sure that you have true diversification and you're taking asymmetric risk.
I love that. Well, Mark, I've really enjoyed this conversation, man. For people listening, if they want to find out more about you, if they want to check out your podcast or your book, how's going to be the best way for people to do that?
Well, you can certainly reach us at northeastprivateclientgroup.com or markbmurphy.com. And all I can tell you is I think in life, Jeremy, there's no finish line. There's only milestones.
Yes.
And I think that one of the things that you and I have in common is, I hear people say, hey, I want to get a seat at the table. And I know you and I don't believe in that. We should build our own table.
Yeah. I want to build it and own it, man.
Yeah, because the world's not served by playing small, so we want to play big.
Absolutely. Well, Mark, thank you so much for joining me today, man, and best of luck in the future.
Same to you. Thank you, my friend.